The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to another episode of the Icons of Real Estate podcast, where we highlight top professionals who are making waves in the industry. Now, I'm your host, Karen Roberts, and today I have Darin Tansey with me. He is a Miami real estate expert with over 17 years of experience specializing in luxury waterfront properties, and he is known for his high-touch service and deep knowledge of Miami Beach, Edgewater, Bay Harbor, and beyond. So he has a sharp eye and creative approach that makes him a standout in South Florida's very competitive market. So let's dive into his journey and some insights that make him a true industry icon. Welcome to the show, Darin.
Hey, how are you? I'm excited. I'm excited to meet this guy. He sounds amazing.
Well, yeah, you got to prove it now, Darin.
Yeah,
so,
right? No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. But let's just go back initially to your backstory and what initially inspired you to even go into the business of real estate.
First and foremost, Karen, thank you for having me on today. It's always exciting to get on, to meet new people, to hear about other people's stories, and also to get on and tell my own. So, back in the day, it's like, I'm in Miami Beach, Florida now for almost 20 years, and I'm from Iowa, born and raised. So, most people have no idea what Iowa is, where it is. Even in the United States, they say, oh, that's where they have potatoes, right? And they say, no, you're American. That's where they have corn, but we'll talk about that later. I was living in Chicago before I came up here for about 10 years. I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've always been in sales for all my life. But, I bought and sold a few of my own properties up there, and I made a couple bucks, and I thought, wow, this is great. Maybe a little cocky in my 20s. And I said, this is kind of easy. Maybe I can go do this professionally. So, life changes for everyone. And I decided to leave the cold winters of Chicago to take my talents down to South Beach, as once was so famously said. And I had some family in Fort Lauderdale. So I came down in 2005. And what I found was that buying and selling real estate was a whole different story when it came down to do this, like you had mentioned, in one of the most competitive markets, what I see in the entire world. The financial recession hit, and I was standing there with this great piece of paper that said you're licensed to sell real estate in the state of Florida, but I had no idea what I was doing. I knew nobody whatsoever, and it was at that point where you kind of dig down and say, all right, what are you going to do to figure this out? You can put your tail between your legs and go back home, or you can find your way. So that's really how I started out. As I came down with high aspirations. I made some money in a different city, in a different market, in a different part of the country. And then I came down here and I fell absolutely flat on my face. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any money, and I couldn't sell anything. So that's how I started off. And here we are today.
But so how did you then transition then to actually specialize in, not just any residential property, but luxury waterfront properties here in Miami?
It's back in that part of time of the market versus today, fast forward, the markets are very, very different. And for anyone listening that has any kind of sales experience or sales aspirations, what they really should think about doing is what is sales all about? What is sales 101? People come down here and they think real estate, real estate, real estate. I want to sell multi-million-dollar homes and make money and do like they do on TV, which, by the way, reality is not reality. And what I see a lot of people stumble on and forget, to answer your question, is that they need to focus on what selling is all about. And they need to focus on what's called feature benefit, and to really listen. So many salespeople I see and hear over the course of the years, many years doing this, is that they like to hear themselves speak, but they don't listen to what the customer or the client has to say. And if you're not listening to what somebody has to say, you're not understanding or hearing what they're trying to tell you. So it's a big component to it. And how did I get from point A to point B? Look, I was scrappy. I was doing rentals, many years ago, for $900 a month, one bedrooms, $1,800 a month for two bedrooms. So, really started off just doing what everybody needs to do, and that's you kind of cut your teeth at the beginning, you hustle.
Mhm.
You can get a little lucky here and there, like some people do, but at the same time, is I had met a guy in a coffee shop. I'm still friends with him today. He was my first client ever. And I met him in a coffee shop. We got talking, and I did a big rental deal for their family. Got to know him a little bit more. He said, "Hey, we're looking to buy a piece of land that we can build on." Sold him in an A-plus location on the Venetian Islands, Miami Beach, best view in the world. And back then it was about $2.5 million. But that property today would be probably around $12 million just for the piece of dirt. But that's, you can't go back and say coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Mhm.
The moral of the story is that I put a sign up in the front yard. And back then we could do that and just put a sign there, whether it was for sale or not. I took phone calls 7 days a week, 365 for almost 2 years. And by answering the phone, which may sound very remedial, but by really answering the phone and really being present and really taking the time and the energy to get a bunch of calls that maybe you didn't want to be on at certain times of the day or the weekend when you want to just relax, chill, be with your family, whatever, is not only did I take the calls, but I did the homework to where when the person on the other end, I didn't know who they were. I treated them like they had $100 million in their pocket. And I knew my market and I knew my data. And it was to understand if they asked you a question about something else that's listed there, you knew the answer and you knew the story behind it. Because if you don't, you have a couple seconds to impress somebody that doesn't know you other than a voice and a couple numbers.
Wow, that was, I think, real estate training all combined in a few minutes. Absolutely fantastic. And it's interesting that you mentioned there a little bit about really listening,
Oh,
because
yeah.
so many are going in. I suppose they're all going in with their own agenda, right? The
Right.
realtor wants to sell the house,
Yes.
and the person that you're going to doesn't want to be ripped off. So they've both got different agendas. But when you're showing up to actually serve first, well, you've proven it, because that's how you've become so successful. I mean, and so living in Miami for the last, did you say 20 years?
Yeah.
How has that really shaped how has that changed your approach to real estate?
No, the market itself has shifted and went up and went down, and like many cyclical types of markets that are out there, whether it be in real estate or commodities or stocks and bonds, whatever it may be, you'll see some ebbs and flows. Miami has a history of having high highs and low lows, and people have seen that in the past. What I've seen changed over, if we're talking about that the financial recession time of the market, 2007, 2008, 2009, to where there were really low lows, but that market was built on fake money. The
Mm.
credit didn't exist then. People were going in for non-stated loans to where these may be, people in the industry that are making $50,000 to $100,000 a year, buying multi-million dollar properties with a $10,000 deposit, no stated income, no credit checks, nothing. But so it was inflated. And that's one of the reasons why, amongst others, that you saw the crash that we did. Today, it's completely different, especially in new construction. New construction, now developers are looking for 40 and sometimes 50% deposits in the state of Florida, especially South Florida. So if you don't have money to buy something, you technically really can't buy anything because you need that actual cash that's in there. You're seeing much less of that inflated market that was before, people were just going and walking away from the deposits because they really didn't have anything in there to begin with.
My
Um,
goodness.
Also, the market has really changed just because of even if you focus on like your post-pandemic boom, that was a time that everyone has a story, and everyone part of the world, as tragic as it was, it really changed the market and really everywhere in terms of what we know it as today. Now, it's not just that the impact of remote work, but if you're talking about the overall lifestyle prioritization, you're talking about tax migration, the international and now national influence that's here in Miami. Before, it was an international market, and that's where we as real estate professionals were seeking those large investors. That's shifted. That's, we're talking about a very, very national buyer right now that's looking at a market and an environment and a city and a state that is so incredibly friendly, not only on the business perspective, but it's also on the family, the arts, the culture, education perspective, to where South Florida now can be more of a year-round environment than just that, a vacation or place to go down, have a party.
Right. Yeah. So things have changed incredibly. And so what is keeping you passionate about helping clients navigate this very competitive, as you've said, luxury market?
It's the perception has really changed. I would say, the level of architecture, the level of just inspired health, wellness, branded residential types of expectations that buyers are seeking now. The level of buyer that's come into the Miami market today, they can buy wherever they want. They want to be transported in terms of wherever their lifestyle may be, whether it be in the Northeast, the West Coast, the Midwest, or even potentially international. They want their level of lifestyle that they've achieved and they worked very, very hard for. Their families have worked, generations for. They want to take that exact lifestyle and just put it in a different location, and then put it in another location, and they want it to be all the same. So the exciting part is that now, if you look about, 20, 15, even 10 years ago, that didn't exist. We didn't have the level of architecture, the level of development, the types of developers today that we do, and such an influence that's come down here to South Florida from really all parts of the country and all parts of the world, to where now we can see, again, back to that arts, education, family style environment. There's so much more to do here. You're seeing Michelin star restaurants. You're seeing, multi-billion-dollar businesses, Fortune 25 companies coming down here, setting up shop, and seeing that, we are a very business-friendly state. We're a very tax-friendly state. We have arguably some of the best weather in the country, if not in the planet.
Yeah.
And it's a place that people really, truly enjoy to come down, and quality of life and lifestyle planning is so vitally important. It's everything.
Absolutely. Oh, I couldn't agree with that more. So for you, for anybody coming into the industry, so they're, in that area, what advice would you give them starting out? What would you say are the three key things to being successful in Miami's market?
Okay, number one. Number one was the first bit of advice that I had when I was 22 years old, coming out of college and taking my first job. I remember the guy, I remember the spot, I remember everything about this. And I've said this to so many new agents, is that you really, truly need to stop and pay attention to detail. And for those that don't pay attention to detail, you're going to miss so much about this particular industry, because detail is everything. If I didn't know the detail when those people called me from my real estate sign back in 2009, 10, and 11, I would have never been able to transform them, not only in terms of clients, but into long-term allies and benefits, to where they're referring me business still today. There's still people I do business with today that called me from that one real estate sign on Delito Island. So paying attention to detail in this business is absolutely everything. Not only you have the detail of the property themselves, but there's legal parameters and everything else that comes around to it. The second bit is extraordinarily compelling. So hold on. That's answer your phone. Sounds very difficult, right? You need to answer your phone. You need to be present. You need to be available for your clients or your prospective buyers or your prospective sellers, because chances are they can do this without you. If they're calling you, they want to work with you for a reason. You need to be a source of knowledge for them. You need to be an ally for them in terms of what they're doing, buying and selling. And you need to be present for that particular client, because if you don't answer your phone, they will find somebody else. And in this competitive market that we're in right now, with the ups and downs of the financial side of it that we see every single day that we watch on the news, it's a very, very competitive market when it comes to real estate professionals down here. We've got some amazing business professionals down here, and it's there's a lot of money on the table. And if you don't watch your back, then that money will not be in your pocket.
There you
Uh,
go. There
so,
you go.
so we're going to know our detail, pay attention to detail. We're going to answer our phone. And then finally, my third bit of advice is you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and you're going to
Mhm.
follow that. And these may sound really minuscule, but I can't sit here and say you need to know the level of analytics on a certain type of island and this and that, because all of what I'm giving is foundation. And if you don't have a
Mm.
foundation, good luck, you're going to get beat. Or good luck, you're not going to get hired. You will be fired, you will lose deals, and you won't understand really how the basis of this career is all about. So you follow through what you say you're going to do with clients and buyers and sellers, and that's when they turn into to long time business assets for you in the future. I can't tell you that how many people I've worked with in the past that have bought something for under $1 million, and now fast forward, I'm working with them and they're doing 8-figure deals. So it's
Wow.
you need to
Wow.
follow through what you say you're going to do.
There you go. So, top tips. Thank you so much for your insights there. And so, tell us, a lot of people that I speak to, the amount of transactions they're doing in a year is a lot, takes a lot of work. For you and your area, I'm sure things are a little bit different because it's the luxury market. So would you like to share with the listeners sort of what does that equate to? How many transactions are you doing on a yearly basis?
And I think it's depending upon where you're focused at. I know that there's real estate is multidimensional. And if you think about a triangle and you turn that triangle upside down and you put the word real estate on top of the base of that triangle, really that is what you're looking at in terms of this particular business and this career choice. And what you want to do is you want to move down and really get to the point, right? Pun intended. But you get to the point in terms of what you want to specialize in. And real estate, you could have residential, you could have commercial, you could have leasing, you could have purchasing, you could be a listing agent, a buying agent. All this stuff is at the top and it's going to trickle down. So my point here is that depending upon what you're really focusing on will depend upon the number of transactions.
Mm,
I know people that are out there that are doing, 4 or 5 transactions a year, but they're selling, hundreds of millions of dollars because they only focus on really big transactions.
yes.
I know people that are out there doing hundreds of transactions,
Mm,
but they're focused in a smaller area. They may do rentals, they may do specifics when it comes around to new development. So it's not necessarily the units, it's more of the volume in terms of what
mm,
out there looking. And all of us here, we strive to eclipse 9 figures. I mean, we want to get into the hundreds of millions of dollars of selling. There's some exceptional agents that are here in the state that are close to $1 billion in sales. I am working towards that. I am not there yet, but yes, definitely 9 figures easily all day long. And I've got a great team behind me, and we're having a good year so far, and we're only in second quarter.
brilliant. Yes, things are looking up. Things are going in the right direction. So
Indeed.
then what's next then? Like you said that, okay, you want to get to $1 billion, not there yet, but it sounds like you are definitely going to be. But what's next for Darin and his team?
Right now it's like, yeah, what I'm working on with my team right now is starting to really look at what's the 5, the 10-year plan. And if
Hmm.
and if anyone out there listening is not doing that and they're in this business, then you're behind the 8 ball already. You need to set your business up and you need to focus on 4 quarters of the year, not just a year goal. And I tell my team every day and I say, what is your 30, 60, 90 plan? I didn't invent this. This is old school business, right? But if you're not focused on your 30, 60, 90 plan, then you will get behind. You will not meet your goals. And if it's January 1st and you say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then you get to October and you say, oh, you know what I'm going to say,
Hmm.
that if you've not met those goals, then you're in trouble already. So focus on the short term and you look at
Hmm.
what am I going to accomplish this quarter? And if you're not accomplishing that this quarter, then you're never going to meet your goals for the year. So I'm looking at my 5 to 10 year plan. I'm already starting to think of where succession can come in because I'm looking at everyone on my team to think, where is their next career move going to be within my group? I don't
Hmm.
want them to get stagnant and I don't want them to start thinking. I want them to say, hey, look, in 2 years, this is the next level that I'm going to reach. Or in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, this is where I'm going to be. So my administrative team, I'm already talking to them about hey, this is what our goal is going to be by the end of the year, and this is what you're going to be doing next. This is the money that I want you to reach, and this is what my expectations are from an overall selling perspective of where you want to be. So on my side of it, I think there's quite a bit of opportunity right now in what's called condo terminations. And you'll start to hear that word, you start to read it more and hear it in the news and read it in the papers, that the condo terminations, especially here in South Florida, they'll be more prevalent with changing code, with changing environments, and with changing overall architecture development needs and expectations for people that live down here full time, not just for vacation. Some of these buildings are going to start to not only become unsafe, but obsolete. And what developers are looking at right now is to say, we are out of prime locations because it's already been built upon. But the buildings that are vintage 50s, 60s, 70s, there could be opportunity to where the owners of these buildings decide there's bigger value to deal with this developer. I could get 3, 4, 5x from the current value of my apartment. And if there's a developer that's looking to build on that plot of land, maybe we should all sell, and maybe we should then move on to our next step. So that is something to look out for. I would say in this next cycle is that you will start to see more of these condo terminations prevalent. It's a good thing for not only for the owners of the property getting more than their value. It's great for the developers because they're coming in with the ability to provide then more for the next set of buyers that would be coming in, the next generations of buyers. And also it's better for the community when, in all reality, some of these buildings will start to get to where they're in disrepair, and then that could be a challenge to the neighboring buildings.
So lots of changes coming this year.
Lots.
Fantastic. So finally, because here at Icons, we're not just a podcast, we are the #1 real estate podcast network globally, and we're passionate about making podcasting accessible to everybody involved in the business of real estate. So Darin, if you or you and your team had your own podcast, what would you call it?
Such an interesting question. And I've been thinking through this as to say is, what could this be called? So I will give a self plug, and I'm going to call this podcast Tenacity. And tenacity is a play on my last name, as we know it's Tansey. But tenacity is one of my favorite words that I use, because without being tenacious and without having that drive, that motivation each and every day when we wake up, we're self-motivators. We have to be self-motivators. And we can't get pushed unless we do it ourselves. And unless you have that true tenacity to go out each and every day to do better than you did before, both personally, professionally, spiritually, within your family, you can't achieve what you want to achieve in your life. So that's what I would call the podcast. Tenacity.
Brilliant. And finally, so who are you looking to connect with? Are you looking to recruit agents, or are you looking to people who want to buy or sell in Miami, or both?
I would say both. It's from business professionals, like-minded business professionals with tenacity. I'm always looking to connect with them, and whether that be working together, whether that be going out for listings or working together with a buyer, or just understanding one another more so we can share common practices. I'm always looking for that, always. When it comes to buyers and sellers, it's, look, I've had about 20 years experience down here. I know the market, the intricacies inside and out. I know what to do, what not to do, and I've got a great team behind me. So whether it's a $100,000 investment on a condo, we've got a team for that. If it's a $100 million condo termination, I can certainly help you with that as well.
Brilliant. And so where do they find you then? How would they reach out to you?
They could always get me on my cell phone, which is the best place to reach me, always. I'm sure we'll provide that information. WhatsApp, text is the best way to reach me. My website, darintansey.com. You can always find me there, or obviously find me on Instagram at Darin Tansey.
Fantastic. And yes, Darin's details will be in the show notes, so resort back to them. So look, Darin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with me and us. And to the listeners, I'll be back next time with the Icons of Real Estate. Bye for now.